Pizza Delizia, a dream of a great Italian pizza. Well, for France too. Pizza Delizia, with a thicker base, extremely crispy outside and soft inside, big in size, with generous topping for happy moments. Delizia, from Dr. Edgar.
Yo, Montpellier, la famille commence aujourd'hui. Institution pour du gros spectacle, Montpellier. J'ai une petite annonce et un petit mot à te faire parvenir. Comme tu le sais, la candidature de Paris 2024 pour les JO, c'est la dernière ligne droite féminine. Il y a le CIO qui est venu nous rendre visite sur ses 20 ans de FISE. Et il reste 4 mois avant de savoir si Paris sera JO 2024 Montpellier. On aura la décision le 13 septembre à Lima. C'est de nos partenaires Stanguier et Bernard Lapassé. Et j'espère qu'on aura... BMX
everywhere. Every sport's going crazy. I don't know what to expect. It's FISE.
The crowd is absolutely ecstatic to watch you ride, and the whole atmosphere is absolutely unreal. So much fun.
It's so very special because you don't see that anywhere else except for at FISE.
Welcome everybody again. Here it is, the FISE World Series presented by Honor and Montpellier Mediterranean Metropole. Thank you very much for joining us again. This is the 20th anniversary of FISE here in Montpellier. And thank you so much. We are here live. I am Ryan Meyer, going to walk you through today's performance as well with my amazingly dressed, like always, co-host Daryl Now. Thanks, Daryl, for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. It's an absolutely honor to be here. Day number 4, FISE. The energy is building, the excitement is growing, and we have a lot of BMX action coming our way.
So if you didn't get what we are starting off with right now, it's going to be the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup semifinals.
That is right, the semifinals, but the real story in 2017 is the FISE World Series. Last year we laid the groundwork for an international event, and this year we are increasing not only the action, not only the courses, but we're picking things up for 2017.
Let's take a look through the FISE World Series map and check out where we're going to be laying out the groundwork around the world. Started off here in Montpellier, France, May 24th to 28th. That means there's still one more day of action left here. Make sure you get your tickets and come down. Budapest, Hungary, that's the new one on the stop. We're going to be making our way to Budapest on August 16th to 19th, then over to Canada, Edmonton, from September 15th until 17th. Moving our way for closing off the ceremonies of the FISE World Series, like we always do in China, Chengdu, from November 3rd to 5th. So if you are in any of the areas for those spots, make sure you make your mark on your map and you come down, check out the FISE. It's one that you do not want to miss. We did some spine last night, Daryl, and now we are back at the park course. How amazing is that course going?
We're taking a look at the battlefield, and right there we actually see Sebastian Henna, our in-house commentator, along with our 5 judges, Igor Vukadinovic, Van Homan, Bibi Sinad-Grosik, and Hank Dave Cleworth, and they are looking at this masterpiece that we have set up for 2017. We're talking about our BMX park competition. This has always been one of the centerpieces for FISE. This is the 21st edition, the 20th anniversary, and it's always been a staple of our FISE event here in Montpellier. In 2017, we ramped it up way bigger. Look at all the transitions, the different curved wall rides, the different transitions out on this course that we're going to see our riders really throwing down. Now, if we're going to talk about our riders, yesterday we had 97 in our open qualifying competition, and we wound up breaking it down into 24 riders who wound up qualifying. 5 of them were our top 5 from last year. Logan Martin, Daniel Dares, Nick Bruce, Colton Walker, and Jack Clark joined our 19 riders who are going to be competing. But Ryan, let's look at what the riders are going to be doing out here.
So we're going to go 24 riders, 6 heats, 4 runs, 2 runs each, and then as well, we have to keep in mind that at the end, there is going to be, I believe, a best trick, but that might be just for the finals.
Correct.
That
That's going to be for the finals. So we have 24 riders. We're breaking them down to 6 heats of 4 riders. They're going to have 2 runs apiece. 60 seconds are going to be on the clock. I had a chance to talk to our head UCI delegate, Bart de Jong, who said that this year it's 60 seconds, very clearly defined for our riders out there. It's going to be an overall impression of 2 runs, but the one thing that we're looking at our screen that FISE is known for are the tremendous crowds, the energy here that is explosive, and we're just seeing a preview of the thousands of fans that are just pouring in to our beautiful grounds here in Montpellier on the Lesse River.
We were talking about the judges before. We looked at some beautiful shots. We saw them sitting down there and getting all their paperwork together. If you did not hear us before, this is the group of post-athletes, let's say. They have all had riding experience in the past. a massive panel of 5 amazing judges in the pro field.
Yeah, if you're going to talk about our judges, you have the first ever Red Bull rider, Senad Grosik, who's from Austria. We have Hank Dave Clark, who's from the UK. We have Bibi, the trails legend from France. We're taking a look at our judges live right now. And then we have Igor Vukadinovic, who is from Croatia. We picked him up last year at the Pannonian Challenge. And then we have the legend who's still riding and ripping, Van Homan. You guys know that name because he's been synonymous with pushing modern-day street riding to a whole new level. But those are our 5 judges, and they are going to be looking for our riders out here throwing down big tricks, difficulty of tricks, frequency of tricks, and really a rider's overall approach to this course.
Talking about overall approach to courses, a man who is able to do it on all the courses that we laid out for him last year, Logan Martin. Let's take a bit of a highlight clip look at why he ended up being your FISE World Series champion in 2016. You can see this is some amazing riding that we have kind of conglomerated together from all the different stops that we had, the 5 different stops last year. Logan Martin outrode everyone. He came out on fire every single time. Check out tricks like that cork 720 bar spin to bar spin. Absolutely amazing riding from the young Australian from Brisbane. Toured all around the world. We were in Denver, Colorado there, where Logan ended up 6th actually. As well, you can see he's just stepping up his tricks each and every stop. We saw him in the mini ramp or in the spine last night, still on fire. He's one to come out to all the different contests. Here he ended up 1st in Canada, as we see here. That was our debut in Edmonton. Absolutely amazing showing from all the BMX riders as well.
Yeah, Logan really was riding like a man possessed, let's say. He has such a focus. He's definitely puts an emphasis on being an athlete, even though BMX and freestyle has a lot of creativity. We're taking a look at the creative lines, though, that he wound up executing at our finals in Chengdu, China. But you know what, Ryan, if you and I are going to talk about one thing with the World Series, last year we had 5 stops, and the consistency at each stop is definitely something that Logan showed and why he was able to come out on top in points.
That style was so beautiful there, that flip whip to table. Absolutely amazing stuff coming out of Logan, let's say. But as well, it was such a heavy battle throughout, and we're going to have to just see how it's going to pan out. We're just starting off the series, so this is going to be the first stop on the series. There's 4 times that all the BMX athletes are able to test their luck in this Freestyle Park World Series. Check us on social media, especially Facebook, FISE.official. As well, you can make us go through the Twitter and Instagram if that's more your thing, FISE World, and make sure you hashtag all your posts, FISE World, and for the 20th anniversary here in Montpellier, FISE 20. Let's take a look at who is going to be riding for us today. Who were the riders who made it into this semi-final? Jean-Baptiste is going to be first rider to draw up the last place qualifier there. Bryce, Alex, Daniel Wedemeyer, Cam Peak, Ben Wallace, Andre-Yves Constantine, Daniel Sandoval. Moving through, Michael Barron, Jake Walwork, Tom van de Bogarden, nice to see the Dutch boy out here ripping, Brandon Lupos, Martin Rantes, just a heavy packed field.
The number one thing to look at is 20 through 24, Jack Clark, Colton Walker, Nick Bruce, Daniel Dare, and Logan Martin. Those are your top 5 finishers from 2016. So they actually bypassed the qualifier. You have that advantage if you wound up placing well the year prior. So they're going to be out on the course. It's going to be the first time that we have an opportunity to see them. In my opinion, Ryan, the big story out here is this new course. The ramps are huge. I'm going to go out on a limb and say these are the largest ramps we've ever had at FISE. There are more transitions out there. We have 3 separate volcano ramps that offer a rider for availability to hip and transfer. There's curved wall rides, step up, step down. This is a playground for our riders, and you hear the crowd right now. Just the energy is electric.
It's such a beautiful course. I mean, the people out here at FISE, the woodwork is absolutely amazing. It's craftsmanship at its finest, but it is Disneyland for anyone venturing into action sports, and especially a BMX park enthusiast.
So 60 seconds starts now. JBP with the 360 backflip to get things started. Again, look at the double tail up to that massive hip. You see that snowplow landing, but JPV transferring up, and look at the height of this spine. That landing is almost 15 feet tall, setting him up for that box jump to throw down a pendulum that's a no-foot can-can in both directions.
Coming back up into that dish, this is where, yeah, like you said, everything has been extended. That used to be a small feature over by the box jump. Oh, going down awkwardly, not making it to the transition, but there is so many lines here, it's hard not to get mixed up.
So Ryan, I had an opportunity to talk with their head delegate, Bart de Jong from the UCI, and he was talking about how important the 60 seconds this year, how much that can be a factor. Last year it was optional, 45 to 60 seconds, but he said that he really wants to see riders utilizing that entire clock. So right there we see JB go down. He got back up. He was able to throw some flares in and wrap up the rest of his run. Hopefully the judges award him for that effort after a crash, which is never an easy thing to do. But just take a look at all of those huge transitions out there.
The blue curve wall ride with the transitions on the backside adds for a ton of very interesting transfer features coming from the spine or transferring back down onto the wedge. As well back you have that kind of triangular nipple feature. You have the two hips going both ways. There are so many more options. I didn't think that the FISE was able to improve their course that much. I already thought it was so amazing, but year in year they do it again, and they've done it again here for the 20th anniversary.
So we have the young gun, the 16-year-old Bryce Tryon coming in, hailing from California. Woodward West is his local spot, and right now looking so comfortable at that alley-oop double bar spin. I had an opportunity to talk with Bryce last year on the tour. We actually got to ride together a little bit in Colorado. He said that the FISE World Series is such a great opportunity for riders to not only get out there and ride with the other riders, but also to help make a name for themselves. And Bryce coming into 2017 with the big Superman up, bar spin coming down, is doing just that, where he's getting a lot of fans from around the world, not only on our feed coming out, but also for the Montpellier BMX fans. Tuck no-hander over the step up, looking extremely solid, but again, the 60 seconds, the final moments are what's going to be make or break for a lot of riders.
Absolutely amazing riding from the young gun. He had a very unique set of lines coming around, utilizing a lot of the park feature, throwing in a nice Superman there. I like to see that from some of the younger riders. Very good style points from Bryce Tyrone. The crowd here, it is semifinals, and the crowd is already swarmed in. I had to ask you to double check twice. Was this finals or semifinals? We've been doing so many events out here at the FISE. That is one of the most fun things about this entire week-long event.
So again, we're breaking our 24 riders down to the heats of 4. You're taking a look at heat number 1. Bryce Tryon just had his run. We have Alex Nicolin and Daniel Wiedemeyer who have yet to go. So Alex Nicolin, hailing from Russia, one of my favorite riders out there, definitely has a stripped-down style, rides pegless and brakeless on his bike, and you can see he definitely utilizes the off-axis rotations, whether they're backflips or 360s on the course, and I definitely feel that a high-speed course like this can favor the Russians riding.
Nicolin going for a massive boost on that quarter pipe here. We saw him having huge runs in the spine last night. Going for the box jump, boosting a big 720. Flying all the way across course to that hip feature, but opting to go into the dish. Not quite getting a trick out. And Alex is one to get all the time in for his runs. Make sure he has tricks to count for every moment. Huge front flip over that spine.
That was enormous. Putting your weight over your handlebars like that with that big landing coming down, not an easy thing to do, but might I dare I say, Alex making it look easy out there. 10 seconds, the clock is winding down. Again, we're going to keep bringing up that this is a make or break moment. So far, we've seen our first 3 riders kind of wave it off a little bit towards the end. And I spoke too soon, Alex with a flare there at the buzzer, showing that he has the endurance to go the distance. Now, we talk about endurance. Last year at our stop in Colorado, Brandon Lupos actually won that stop where he was able to utilize the endurance out on the clock on the course. So we're going to see how much of a factor that plays in. But I got to tell you, that front flip going head over heels like that, one of my favorite tricks that we've seen in the competition is so far.
You can really see how large that landing ramp is for the spine, or that transition, however you want to take it. It is a massive, massive feat to get to. And if you're going the other way, you must have so much speed to make it up. A rider who has a lot of flow and tons of speed throughout all his runs, known here at the FISE in Montpellier for doing some of the largest fufenus. He will pick out the tallest feature on course to try and go and attempt a fufenu on. This is none other than the Flying Dutchman, Daniel Wedemeyer.
Daniel, always a favorite here at FISE. This crowd fuels this Dutch madman with good reason. You see that brake lever on his right side. Daniel loves to jump off of high ramps, do big transfers, and utilize that brake with huge fufenus. But look at the speed, Ryan. He is coming in hot. Transfer setting up right here. Where is he going?
Wow, massive transfer on that hip. This really could be a course that suits his riding style, as you're able to carry tons of speed and flow all over the place to wherever your mind desires.
Yeah, Daniel coming back from an injury. He's had a couple, and now he's charged up to ride. He said he's been really looking forward to this event.
Going down hard there.
Whoa.
That was what I was meaning with those transfers, opening up lines like that. We had seen it done in previous sports that were sharing the course here, but I did not yet see it in BMX. Daniel seems to be taking a breather after that one. A massive drop. You can see he is standing almost 2 meters tall himself. That means that wall there is over 2 meters. Blasting with the amplitude he got off that, it's about a 4 to 5 meter drop down to just a wedge feature with hardly any transition.
And the one thing that I really want to feature out is that is a blind transfer. What I mean by that, you're hitting that very steep vert wall quarter that's bowled out, and you cannot see the landing. So when you wind up transferring off of that, you just basically have to have blind faith. He can't see where he's going. His rotation, he was coming up a little bit short, and his weight was a little bit over his handlebars. A very hard thing to gauge, but definitely one of the harder transfers that are out on this course. So we are going to go back to the top. We got JB Petaviv up there getting ready to take a run at number 2. JB, very talented dirt jumper. So what I mean by that is that he's got a lot of jumping variations. This course definitely can favor him. We have that step up, step down box jump feature, not to mention the solo box jump out there and all the big hips. JB, you could just tell, is having a great time feeding off the energy of the crowd. Look at the speed. Yeah, 2 for 2 on that 360 backflip. Now, one other thing to highlight here, it is 2 runs overall impression, so that means both runs count. And again, I had that opportunity to review with the judges that they want to see variety out there. They want to see a rider take overall approach on each run very different. But if a rider winds up doing similar lines and throws in some different combinations or variations, that's definitely better than doing 2 of the same runs. But the best case scenario is if they take 2 different lines out there, complete different approaches to the course, because it will help showcase who's a better rider with more variety.
Ooh, nice flare. I'm just utilizing it kind of like a small mini ramp section as he comes around the corner there. Oh, and going for a dark side foot fast plant there. Not going going down awkwardly. I couldn't quite see in the shadows what happened.
So we're going to take a look at this 360 backflip. Perfect execution right there. Able to find the landing. Also known as the alligator wrestler, as dubbed by Kenan Harkin, the first rider to ever throw down the 360 flip way back at Woodward in the early 2000, late 1990 era. But you're going to mention Woodward. You're going to mention Woodward West. You're bringing up our next rider, Bryce Tryon. As mentioned, 16 years old, our youngest rider of our semifinal competition. And look at this, hamming up the crowd right here, channeling his inner Dave Volker. Dave Volker, a.k.a. the Lord, would always get the crowd pumped up. And Bryce with a big double bar spin backflip. That is how you make a red carpet entrance into run number 2. Alley-oop double bar spin, so smooth the way that he just guides those handlebars around. You see he used his right arm to basically just steer the bars and have complete control the entire time. Great use of the alley-oop, carving around the bowl corner. Superman going up, no-hander coming down.
Going back up into the top section of this course here. Alley-oop on the quarter pipe. Superman over that spine. Some bar spin features and a hand plant on the vert wall. And that is going to do it for Bryce. Throwing up the hands.
Yeah, Bryce, very proud of your runs out there. It's nice to see the young gun linking it all together. His second FISE World Series last year. Again, he was on the tour. We're taking a look at that Superman over the spine, kicking the legs back.
Going up for run number 2 here. Alex Nicolin.
As mentioned, Alex, always one of my favorites to watch out here. In freestyle, you have an option of how you want to set your bike up. You could put pegs on, you could put brakes on, front or back. Alex really has a stripped down style on his bike, no pegs, no brakes, and his riding is just fast and smooth. Definitely has that ability to pop the spins and rotations. And let's see which way he's going to bring it over the box jump.
Oh, man. Talking about having no brakes on your bike, he was flying to the moon there on that front flip tuck no-hander. Thought he was going to over clear it, but landed perfect. Shows how big the features are out there. Transferring back into the spine with a huge front flip again.
2 for 2 on that massive front flip over the spine. I mean, that landing is at least double the height of the takeoff, and that's a 6-foot spine. So we're talking at least a 12-foot landing, if not higher. I mean, when you're down on the course, it is just double high, head high out there. So Alex Nicolin, final moments. Yeah, popping a nice little flare and a great way to wrap that up.
Solid second run out there for Nicolin. I'm curious how the judges are going to score all these coming in. It's going to be a tough and tight battle to make it into the finals tomorrow.
So look at that no-handed front flip to turn down. 3 different tricks put in, and there is that front flip just down that enormous snowplow landing. So right now, all eyes in Montpellier are on the madman, Daniel Wiedemeyer.
Looking back at his nemesis there from the day. Wants to conquer that 360 transfer, I'm sure.
Daniel is cut from a different cloth. He loves enormous transfers. If there's a tall ramp, he loves to jump on or off of it, sometimes utilizing that back brake for a foo-fanoo. He's made many classic history moments here at FISE over their 21 years of events. And right now, it looks like he's getting in the zone, locked and loaded, looking to make another one right now.
Starting it off strong, that 360 right out of the gate, getting redemption.
Charging a lot of speed and momentum.
Oh, and that's what I mean, using that again for the transfer from the backside of the spine. 360 tail whip over the box. This does seem to be a course that's favoring Daniel Wiedemeyer's style.
Daniel in that zone, wrapping around the curved wall. First rider we've seen utilize a lot of these transfers. Daniel, quick, believe nose bonk over that hip, coming back in. 18 seconds. These are going to be make or break moments. Foot jam up and over the spine. Crucial 10 seconds. Ice pick stall. Back peg on that enormous sub wall. I'm not even going to call it a sub box. I'm going to call it a sub wall, because I believe that's a 5-foot quarter with a 10-foot sub box on top of it. So he's basically jumping on top of a wall, balancing on his back peg. It's called the ice pick because that's what he's utilizing, and comes back in. But here's a look at that big 360 transfer. Again, we talked about it being blind faith. Taking a look from another angle, you see him spotting the landing and just grabbing that transition at the top part where a rider wants to land. So that is going to wrap up heat number 1 of 6. We're going to give heat number 2 a few moments to get out there and get flowing. But I think that, Ryan, this is a perfect time to let everybody know that not only you could follow us all on our social media platforms, but if you want to let Ryan or myself know who you're voting for on the action, you could get in touch with us at Darryl Now, DARRYL, or respectively Ryan at his handle at Ryan Mayer, RyanMeyer, and you guys can let us know who you want to see rolling out in top honors today. But we do have riders checking in from all around the world. I know that my Brooklyn family out in Greenpoint at the Tender Trap is watching. We've got the Sorello brothers cheering on JB Petaviv with this 360 backflip over the box jump. Bryce Tryon with that big backflip bar spin. Look at the off-axis rotation of the Russian, Mr. Nikolin.
Coming for that front flip over the spine. You really do see the girth of that landing, and the Flying Dutchman really sailing high with the wings over that hip. Check out once again, there was that crash on the 360 over the hip. Goes right back up for redemption in his next run and slays the demon. Beautiful backflip bar spin from the very young rider. Wish I could be riding BMX like that when I was 16, 17. Nikolin as well. There's that front flip, tuck no-hander to turn down. And Daniel Wedemeyer, there you go, starting off his run number 2 very strong. And that other transfer back the opposite way, charging all the way from the bottom side of the park to that large spine to get all the momentum he can to transfer onto the backside of the seawall.
So we're waiting for our scores to come in from heat number 1, but if you're just joining us around the world, this is the FISE World Series stop number 1 in Montpellier, France. And scores coming in after heat number 1. It looks like the Russian Alex Nikolin is going to be sitting in that top spot with a 76.20. So he is setting the standard, the bar to beat. And we have Bryce Tryon, Daniel Wedemeyer, and JB Petaviv down there in 4th place. So we're going to start to see a full picture once our 24 riders drop in. But as mentioned, this is our semi-final stop number 1 FISE World Series. 24 riders broken down into 6 different heats of 4 riders. 2 runs apiece, 60 seconds are on the clock. Both runs count. It's going to be an overall impression by our judges, and we are going to be taking 16 into our final. Excuse me. We are going to be taking 12 riders into our final. So right now we got Cam Peak looking to drop, starting things off technical with that bar spin to foot jam. Ryan, I love the precision, just a quick bounce on the deck. You didn't see him pogo or hop or stall. It just shows that the precision and the skill level that Cam Peak's on, even on a more basic trick.
Beautiful 360 whip over there. Now coming back on that vert wall. Nice Indian air, utilizing a unique trick on the hip and toboggan the harder way. Back on the right hip, coming into that spine. 360 whip down with ease and transferring over on the flat bottom into that box jump. Again, coming back up, but not taking the hip and pressing the eject button up into the dish.
It's great to see Cam back on the horse. Last year, he actually had an injury during our FISE World Series, and I want to say that Cam is such representation of the great time of the FISE World Series. He actually came on some of the other stops, cheered on his fellow riders, and partied with everybody, enjoying the lifestyle that is FISE. But we're looking at that 360 tail whip, showing his bike control with that can for extra points. There is just a regular 360 tail whip, and that's where he was able to set up to that downside 360 whip over the box. So rider number 2, Big Ben Wallace. Ben doing it for Mongoose. I got to say, Ben is one of my favorite riders out there. He's got the ability to pop these 360s at such height because his rotation is a non-traditional way for where his foot placement is. So sometimes he's able to really crank into a look back where some riders might go into a look down.
Oh,
and there you
just
go.
talking about it.
Thank you, Ben. Picture perfect over that big spine, but look at the speed. So far going higher over that wall ride and also over that hip than any other rider has gone.
So what Daryl was touching on is basically Ben is a goofy-footed rider, in other words, where he spins opposite of what would be the normal way.
So Ben, recently a father this year, and I have a feeling that that's what's been charging his riding so far in the 2017 series. We were just in Malaga, Spain for the Vans contest where he won best trick, throwing down an enormous flare transfer. And Ben is keeping that momentum rolling here in Montpellier with the cannonball over the box. That's where you take all your limbs off and grab the seat. A nice 1 foot X-up inverted foot plant. Yeah, and you see he's very aware of the clock here, utilizing up until the last and final moments. So Ryan, I'm going to say it was a very solid run right there for Ben. He had a lot of elements that I personally like to see. Not only did he have that big 360 where he got that clicked look back, taking a look right here.
Oh, but I love that trick, just how you said it, because of the foot placement. A lot of the times the 360s flow so much nicer in that sense, and he has a beautiful way of moving his legs so that he can really click that look back.
Yeah, and then he had that progressive 360 double double tail whip, downside double tail whip, and also he hit the hip and the wall ride higher than we've seen any other rider thus far.
Andrei Constantin, a man who we know very well on the FISE World Series, but especially on the BMX scene, has some of the biggest combination tricks. 360 whip to tuck no hander, 360 whip to bar?
It is a tongue twister out there, and that's because this Russian's got the technical ability to match.
Whip to tuck no hander over the hip.
Oh!
Huge combination. Looks like he didn't have enough speed. Remember, Daniel Wedemeyer riding all the way across the park to get to that one.
360 double whip. We know that Kostya has the ability to link sometimes 4 or 5 tricks together, which is so crazy to think that he's that tech. Going up the bar spin, foot jam, walking the plank. That's a very narrow deck on top of that curved wall ride. Backflip going up. Case is a little bit losing some of his momentum, but able to keep it rolling. 450 bar spin as the clock is 3, 2, 1, and that is run 1 of 2 for the Russian.
Beautiful run for the Russian rider Andrei there. Jam-packed with combinations right out of the clock. Hardly let up through the entire run. Check here, there was that transfer, which I really thought he didn't have enough speed for such.
There's that backflip. You saw he tagged a little bit, but kept his momentum enough to clear that step down. So we're keeping it rolling for heat number 2, Daniel Sandoval. He is an X Games gold medalist hailing from Southern California. Daniel exploded onto the scene about 5 years ago where he had some of the most progressive jumping variations out there. And I'm going to say that he basically changed the game with his downside 360 tail whips and 360 whips with bar spins into and out of in both directions. I remember when we were at Eindhoven for the Rebel Jam, people were just mesmerized by his riding, and he showed no sign of slowing down.
Oh, the height. Sandoval flying out of the gate here. He's going over to the spine feature, I believe, as he comes out bombing and dumping a 360 bar spin there into a 3 whip to bar. Going super high into the hip here. 450 bar spin coming over to the seawall. Oh, 360 double, 270 double whip or triple whip even. Things were happening too fast on screen. I will have to take a look at the replay there. 360 downside whip into a 360 out of the dish.
So Sandoval last year was on our World Series, finished in 15th place. A lot of room for him to move up because he's a very talented rider, kicking that tail whip around. I believe that was 1, 2, 3 times around.
Yes, it was.
Getting up close and personal with our camera operator right there. You see Noah brakes on his bike, ripping on through. So Sandoval setting a good standard for himself out here. Run number 1. There's that downside 360 tail whip to bar spin. And
it was just a 270 double tail whip. I had said I didn't quite see if it went 3 or not.
So heat number 2, going back to the top right here. Cam Peak is looking to take his second run of 2. For all of our fans at home, the energy here in Montpellier, you cannot even describe it. I will do my best to, but if I had to say explosive, just electric out here. The riders feed off of it. You know, at any contest, any session you might have, even if it's 3 guys on a ramp riding, when you're getting cheered on by people, it just is basically pushes your riding to another level. But when you have hundreds of thousands, yes, hundreds of thousands come to FISE throughout the course of our weekend, that transferred to riding. That's why we see so many world firsts out here. And Cam Peak turning things up with that 360 tail whip to bar spin. Getting very smooth with that 360 no-hander over the box, setting up downside 3-whip. Very hard to get the speed coming off that wall ride. You see Cam case a little bit with his back wheel. He lost some momentum, and it looks like he's going to get tech here with that bar spin, foot jam bar spin, as the clock is winding down, and a flare at the buzzer for Cam Peak. Like we said, it's great seeing Cam back on the circuit this year. He had an injury last year. He went down at one of our stops, but that definitely did not deter his good spirit. He wound up finishing out the tour, partying and cheering on his fellow rider throughout the 2016 World Series, but now he is back with a vengeance, showing his flair. Also digging, again, that bar spin, foot jam, bar spin out. So rider number 2, UK's own, doing it for Mongoose and doing it for new fathers everywhere. This is Big B, Ben Wallace, coming in, starting things off in a different spot of the course. There you saw a 360 turn down. So again, his foot position, his rotation was different right there as he started with that look back. And look at Ben Wallace.
Wow.
There was the 360 look back. So you saw the same obstacle in different directions. He utilized that different rotation ability, cranking down in different directions, and that's because of his foot placement. But Ryan, I want to highlight, this is a great start. Ben knows that the judges want to see variety out there, and he took 2 entirely different approaches to the course, and there's no denying that. He didn't do the same run twice with a couple of different tricks. This is an entirely different run and a different approach, and he's keeping that flow.
Yes, and like you said, the judges really want to see diversity and a variety in what the riders are riding and how they're doing their tricks, and Ben is really showcasing a completely different run. You said some of the riders might come out and change a few tricks here and there. I've seen that in the past, and they say, oh, that's big enough, but no, this was a completely different run, starting a totally different side. So big props to Ben. That's a difficulty to do when you come out to a course and you only have a couple hours practicing time. You usually get comfortable with a few lines, and you get those lines in your head and then put in the tricks that you want to wheel out in those runs. Well, he started off in a couple different scenarios here and ended up getting 2 full pulls. So Ben Wallace going to be waiting for his score to come in at the end of the heat. Andrei Konstantin, he's going to get ready to come out of the gate flying again with combinations galore.
Now, the one thing I love about Kostya's riding is that he has the tech ability, not only jumping, where he can do the crazy tail whip bar spin combos. Again, sometimes linking 4 or 5 tricks into one air. But he can seamlessly transfer that to his lip tricks. I believe it was in 2015 he was winner of our best trick on our spine competition with a wild tail whip in, foot jam variation, tail whip out. I think it was a 540 nose pick with his foot in that front tire. But we'll see if he brings that tech ability to run number 2. Yes!
Oh, my
That's what I'm
word!
talking about. 4 in 1. That 360 tail whip with the bar spin and a tuck no-hander. 4 hits in one air. Mind-boggling.
So amazing riding. You see still going, not letting off the gas at all. Like that, 360 bar spin in, 360 bar spin to tuck out.
You know, and that was the thing that I talked about with Bart de Jong, or UCI delegate, who was saying that they really want to see progression out there. And if a rider can throw down a new trick or really push their own riding to a whole new level where nobody has been yet before, that's something that's going to favor very highly out there. Obviously, flow and style is important, but something that they're really looking for is seeing an overall impression, but an emphasis on the tricks out here. It's a BMX park competition, and that was something that he was very clear about.
So there we are getting a look at that 4-trick combo. The 360 tail up to bar spin to tuck no-hander.
And if any of you are at home are saying, hey, he didn't fully extend that hand all the way, you try doing 3 tricks before that 4th one, because there's no one else in the world that's throwing down that combo except maybe one of his Red Bull teammates, Eric Ryzev, a fellow Russian who can throw together 4 or 5 hits in the air as well. When you're putting that many combinations together and you're not doing it over necessarily a mega ramp, you got to do how you do it. So big ups to the Russian Kostya.
I have to shout out to the young Swedish rider of mountain biking, Emil Johansson. He just turned 17. He's competing now for his, well, let's say first year. He's only been under a first year of competition. He's going to be watching the BMX. But man, this guy can throw some action. In his final run, he did up the step up, a 360 double bar spin to opposite downside whip. And it looked like he could have done another bar in there, so maybe he should try some BMX contests. Anyways, we are down to Daniel Sandoval for run number 2. Daniel always packing the heat and dumping some 3s around like that one on the spine. 360 downside whip there over the box. Going for quite a similar line choice to his first run. Huge amplitude for that hip.
It's a very good thing to illustrate where, again, we saw Ben Wallace start from a completely different vantage point. And that's something, you know, the judges have to watch all the other riders. So there's 24 riders, there's 2 runs apiece, that's 48 runs. And they have to really keep in mind what you are doing out there, and they want to see that it's clearly different. So Sandoval, again, with the solid run, I'm not putting his run down at all. I'm just highlighting the fact that Ben Wallace took 2 clearly different approaches. And you also saw the way that he broke down to highlight and illustrate, hey, I'm doing a 360 this direction and a 360 the other direction. But Sandoval out there with a solid run number 2, adding up all the points. So we're going to give the judges a few moments to make sense of the madness. That was heat number 2 wrapping up their second runs. We're taking a look at Sandoval kicking that tail whip around to tuck no-hander. So the judges are going to try to tally all the scores. They're going to come in after each heat. We're taking a look at the Les River out there for all of our USA viewers, especially California viewers. It's similar scene to almost picture the LA River, except a very clean, healthy version with a park on either side. And you've got that big embankment, though, where everybody's able to watch and come together to really have a bleacher-like stadium. It makes for a very free-flow park and makes for a very nice, high-energy space that everybody wants to hang out in. But we're taking a look at that highlight of Ben Wallace, that 360 look back. Here is a double 360 tail whip, a double downside 360 tail whip.
Gets to be a bit of a tongue twister, saying the double downside of the double. We all kind of see what it is, but that's what we're here for, specifying exactly. There's that 360 whip to bar. So just taking a couple looks at the highlight from heat number 2 here at the UCI BMX Freestyle Park semifinals. It's day number 4 of the FISE Montpellier. And if you're just tuning in, I am Ryan Meyer, joined by none other than BMX legendary man. Full-time, lifetime rider and amazing dresser.
Well, thank
Daryl
you.
Nell.
I'll take all those things. Hailing from Brooklyn, New York, it's a pleasure being out here in France. Ryan, you are a professional mountain biker with your roots in BMX, so it's a pleasure calling the commentary for you as well. I have the privilege to travel the world announcing most of the major BMX events that take place on a global level. I got to tell you, every year coming back here to FISE in our 21st edition, it's one of my favorites that I look forward to all year long. Again, the crowd, the energy, the fan base, just having it take place out here and just feeling that camaraderie and energy that goes back and forth, not only with the riders, but with the fans, and the appreciation is something that you never get a chance to experience at any other event. I mean, the entire city really appreciates and respects FISE. The younger generation out here has been grown up and born and bred in a FISE environment. Everybody looks forward to it, and they really show a lot of respect to all of our riders that make the trip and wind up traveling, coming out here.
Speaking about that history of the FISE, we said it's the 20th anniversary. And if you want to check out the history of the 20 years, you weren't around. Most likely our action sports enthusiasts who are listening to us right now were not around back in 1997. But if you want to take a look at the history books, maybe that's some interesting historical facts that you would like to look at, go check out online. You can find it at fise.fr, and you go to the boutique as well. If you're here in Montpellier, go to the boutique, the gift shop, and you will find the very limited edition FISE 20th Anniversary History Book. This is a documentation, an amazing publication that they've created from tons of action sports photographers and action sports journalists who have been visiting the FISE since 1997 and have been taking part in the expression of action sports, both on the amateur level and the professional level. This is an amazing piece of literature and photojournalism that you can come and check out. Going back to heat number 2 here, let's take a look at the results. How did it stack up against heat number 1? André-Yves Constantin takes over the lead with an 84.20, followed by Ben Wallace, the big American, coming out in second place there. Heavy hits with the 80.40, and Daniel Sandoval, 79.60. Finishing off, Cam Peake goes into 7th place with a 64.40 for the end of the second heat.
So that 84.20 is the new standard, the bar to beat. Again, we have 24 riders. We're taking 12 on to the finals. So we've got heat number 3 warming up. Again, if you're in heat 1 or heat 6, it does not matter who else is in your heat because you're being judged on all of the other 24 riders that are out there in the pack. So a man who is focused, one of my favorites, he's definitely pushed the bike flip variations in BMX. We're talking about Michael Baran. If there's a wild variation involving a bike flip, most likely this man has done it. There's only a few riders out there in the world who are even messing with bike flips. Originally pioneered by Brad Blanchard, then pulled by Morgan Wade. Going for that flare. Zach Warden has been pushing the bike flips as well with some really wild variations, but we know that Michael Baran's got them up his short sleeves.
Beautiful 360 double tail whip down that spine. Huge amplitude coming over that hip, charging into the vert wall and the next hip, but taking it straight into the dish. Tuck no hander out.
Yes, big flare tail whip. Michael with 20 seconds, transfer in, no-hander. Come on, Michael. Looking to set up on this hip, double tail whip. You see him just floating, finding his pedals. Love the way he just floated that alley-oop. It's called an alley-oop because you're transferring backwards as opposed to just doing a traditional air in one direction. And there's a backflip hand plant. Looping out right there. Thankfully, he's okay. That is a 15-foot tall landing. Very cool trick doing that backflip, putting his hand down on his rotation, coming around. Not many riders are messing with that trick at all. Thankfully, Michael's okay on that crash. Sometimes when you do have the larger ramps like this, if you can fall into the transition and it could act like a jumbo slide, that's something that can work in your advantage so you don't slam hard on the ground. But we're looking at that flare. He's popping around, and we're just looking at the tail end of that crash that he had on that backflip hand plant over the spine. So we're looking at heat number 3. Mr. Woolwork, who has yet to go. The Australian from Melbourne, 22 years old. Last night we saw in our spine competition, exploded out there on the scene, popping a huge flare. Looking to charge towards the box jump.
Oh! Wow! Big old combinations in that front flip.
Jake with the double tail whip. Something about these Australians, I gotta say, they're definitely cut from another mold.
Feeding them kangaroos. No, I'm kidding.
360 double tail whip. I mean, there really is something about Australians where, at least the ones that BMX, for the most part, if you have a chance to ride with them, party with them, they like to go big and they like to go hard. And right there,
oh, hard
wow.
Down as well. Slams to his shoulder. They love the ink as well, don't they?
Talk about a tough guy getting back up right there. Glad Jake is okay. Went down extremely hard right there.
Very hard. Slam to his shoulder.
So we're going to take a look at Jake.
Check out that front flip combination of the bar spin to tuck no-hander.
And here's a look, 360 double tail whip, catching it in time. And here's a look going for that flare variation. It came
smacks
down
his head a little as well.
brutally on his shoulder and his head, as you mentioned. Hopefully he'll be okay to take run number 2.
And the young Dutchman coming up out of the woodworks, a rider who trains very hard at the 040 Bike Park in Eindhoven. From the Netherlands, it's Tom van de Bogard doing it for Vans. And he is one of my favorite riders to watch. Ever since I first saw him, I entered the 040 Bike Park. It was my first time ever coming there. And this kid's flying around like Mike Aiken. I was like, who is this? He was so young and on fire, and the progression hasn't stopped since.
Well, if you're going to say Mike Aiken, that is a very bold statement. Let's see if his riding can back it up out here. Tom in his run number 1 of 2. Yeah.
Oh, 360 triple downside whip.
Wow, Tom making his presence known out here. I had a chance to meet Tom's family on the way to semis earlier today. He's telling me that he's having the time of his life, really excited to ride in this competition. Tom right now is just ripping over that hip, roasting a lot of height with that no-hander, going the distance on that wall ride.
Getting the channel gap, like you said there, off of the wall. Tom has a very unique way of holding his front foot. It's basically it's actually sitting on his crank arm. He doesn't even use his pedal. It's almost like the pedal spindle. But man, it looks quite amazing how he floats around and gets his bike whipped out.
So that is time for Tom. Rewarded with a huge round of applause from our crowd. Gonna take a look. Wrapping around that head tube, you see him kick the frame, and here's another highlight, the height on that hip.
Absolutely amazing. He goes so high when he's riding park. It's beautiful. Brandon Lupos, pardon me, coming up now.
So Brandon had a tremendous 2016 on our FISE World Series, finished first at our Colorado stop. He had that endurance dealing with the high altitude and was able to really utilize the entire clock out there. Let's see if that translates to 2017. But he wound up finishing in 8th overall for the year. He had a very big season, so we're going to see if he can keep that consistency up, though, in 2017.
He is definitely a spinner, let's say. A man who likes to do so many rotations within his runs. Let's see how he starts off. Backflip double tail whip.
I believe that was the helicopter coming around with the 2 tail whips and that flip, 360 bar up, tuck, no-hander, floating on down. So he's able to keep the momentum.
Oh, there's
Full
that
rotation on that. That flare 540 flat spin. Talk about a tongue twister. Tail whip coming over the spine. Brandon Lupos. Yeah, 450 bar spin, hung up a little bit, but it set him up for that volcano. The first rider we actually saw utilize that triangular volcano in the middle of the course. 10 seconds winding down. Let's see if he could keep it going. We talked about his stamina in Colorado. Foot jam is 3, 2, 1, and that is time for the Australian out there, Brandon Lupos.
finishing off nicely there right at the buzzer with one more flare on the takeoff of the spine. So taking a look back at some highlights from his runs, there was that backflip double tail whip. Said Brandon was a spinner, and we saw him do that 540, or that flare 540 top spin, you said, on the quarter pipe in the back wall.
So we're back to the top. Michael Baran, 60 seconds are set. Taking a moment to acknowledge our crowd. Michael dropping in, looking to get technical with a double bar spin. Tail whip into a no-handed flare. You see him setting up, coming into our spine feature. Yo, off axis 360 tabletop. Almost that backflip rotation. Michael hipping in with a double bar spin 360. Grabbing that transition, coming down with a lot of speed here.
Oh, wow.
Setting up for that double tail whip flare. You saw that he wasn't able to get his feet fully onto the pedals, but he was able to roll away. And there's the backflip hand plant, sticking it clean in his second run. It's got to be a great feeling when you wind up messing up in your first run on a trick and you come back and show the judges that you have that in your arsenal. Clock is winding down. Michael Baran is charged up with a flare right there in his opposite direction. And that is time for run number 2. So Michael Baran stomping a solid second run. A lot of highlights in that one, Ryan.
Yeah, beautiful riding. Like that he was able to get some of those variations. That, yeah, I would have to take a look at it again. Look at the invert on that. Here, this is the one I was talking about, the flare double whip.
I mean, picture perfect on that off-axis 360 tabletop. If you guys got your smartphone, you could follow us at FISE World on Instagram and check out some of the great pictures and also Insta stories that are going on. We've got our photographers going around of all the action. And if you're watching from home, make sure you throw down that hashtag FISE World or FISE20 because we want to take a look and see how you are watching with your friends taking in all this action. But right now, Jake Walwork is bringing our action. Great to see him back for run number 2. He went down hard run number 1, but does not look like it's impacting him at all, where he had that front flip flare. Coming in with the front flip tail whip. The Australian charging out here. The 22-year-old making his presence known in our semifinal. Again, 24 riders. We are only selecting 12 that are going to be moving on. Our 5 judges sanctioned by the UCI are looking for all the action. And Jake Woolwork is packing it in his first 35 seconds that have transpired.
20 seconds left, Jake. 20 seconds.
If Jake can keep the momentum rolling out here, he's got a solid start. But again, we talked about how important Bart de Jong and the UCI said that full 60 seconds is going to be. Alley-oop, 270 tail whip, 5, 4, 3, foot jam, 2, 1, and that is time. Big props to the Australian coming back after that brutal slam. We saw in run number 1, he had that flat spin 5 variation where he wound up over-rotating, coming down hard on his shoulder, bonked his helmet, but came back for some redemption, popping that front flip flare. And here is a front flip tail whip. Such a difficult trick. Your weight is over the handlebars, and you got to kick that tail whip around, but utilizing your upper body to rotate the bike around and not have the bike hit your knees. Big props. So we're keeping the party rolling. Heat 3, Rider 3.
Tom van den Boogaarden.
Okay then. On to the next one.
Van den Boogaard getting ready to drop. I have a feeling that we only saw a preview of what Tom has to offer in his first run, and that is not discrediting his riding. That's actually complimenting it, because his first run was quite impressive. But as you mentioned, he's got that high speed, and I think that one thing that really stood out to me was the height that he jumped onto that vert wall, or excuse me, onto the wall ride, the transfer in. It just shows that he went higher than anyone else out there. And look at the speed.
Oh,
Yes.
and that's what I was talking about. That style is so beautiful from this kid.
Now, you mentioned Mike Aiken, and the thing that stands out in referencing Aiken, having a little bit of difficulty. Aiken was definitely a goofy-footed rider as well, so he was able to get that 360 rotation with the tabletop into a look back, and he was definitely paying some homage to the great Mike Aiken by linking together that combo that Mike pioneered, the 360 one-foot table to look back air. So similar to Ben Wallace, a goofy-footed rider, that's why he's able to do that 360 look back as opposed to a 360 turn down, where the bike is vertical and you are cranking into the spin as opposed to looking backwards.
5 seconds.
Going for that burner on the front tire. Can he go the distance with a no-hander? Some extra style points right there.
Just doesn't seem to have quite the stamina to keep up with some of the other high impact runs, but he did, unfortunately. I mean, look, that was a beautiful 1 foot flatty into look back, and especially that 360 look back as well there. Look at the amplitude he gets on that tail whip coming in over the hip. Unfortunately, he did crash on the double whip after passing the channel into that hip, so we'll have to see how the judges will affect his score for that one. Lupos, though, that's who we are going to next. Brandon Lupos from Sydney. Brandon Lupos made a good showing in the spine contest last night. I'm not too sure, but I am pretty sure that he was awarded with a spot in the finals for this evening. We'll have to check the rider list later. Lupos on course for his second pull, and that cash roll starting it off big. Brandon Lupos cash roll, the first rider we've seen do that in contests so far at the FISE.
The cash roll, originally invented by Daniel Dares, our second place overall finisher in 2016. But then Brett Benisewicz dialed that trick in a few years later, became known as his signature. Brett Benisewicz watching back home at his skate park in Indiana, the Kitchen. Yes, big flare tail whip. Lupo showing you that endurance that he had that helped him with that first place finish in Colorado. One-footed X up, throwing that knack over the hip. 5, 4, flare. Lupos 1 foot X, and going to wrap things up right here with a bar spin. Big run number 2 from the Australian Brandon Lupos. Taking a look at the massive course out here. Again, just want to highlight the enormous size of these ramps. These are the biggest ramps that we've had so far. I mean, FISE has always been traditionally known of having progressive courses and having enormous ramps, but this is the biggest course that we've had so far in our 21 years of FISE history.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights out here from heat number 3. Had some beautiful action so far. There's still a lot of riders to come. Check out action like that front flip bar spin to whip, the 360 double whip just holding on there. 360 triple downside whip from the young Dutchman Tom van den Boogaard, and as well another tuck over the hip from him. Brandon Lupos, huge backflip, a double tail whip over the spine.
Everybody using this time, set your leg down whilst these guys are warming up.
Michael Baron there doing justice to that flare double whip. And the front flip flare as well there. Front flip, tail whip, massive combinations from all the riders out here. There's homage to Mike Aiken on that 360 table to look back and check out that. That was the first cash roll we saw all competition from none other than Brandon Lupos. Massive action happening out here at the FISE UCI BMX Park World Cup semifinals. If you're just tuning in with us, we are now 3 heats deep on the semifinal list. We will have 3 more heats remaining, or I believe 2 heats of fun. I'm not entirely sure, but we still have a whack of riders. We're only down to number 13 on the list.
Yeah, we are at the halfway mark. We had 3 heats down, 3 heats to go. That means 13 riders have taken the course. 13 have yet to ride. 5 of those being our top finishers from last year: Jack Clark, Colton Walker, Nick Bruce, Daniel Dares, and Logan Martin. The big story of this event so far is this going to be another battle royale between our Titans, Daniel Dares and Logan Martin. They were neck and neck for points last year, battling it out. At one event, you'd have basically a haymaker swung by Logan, and then the next event, Daniel Dares would swing back, and they'd wind up going back and forth in points throughout the entire year, and Logan Martin just wound up edging out on the top. But right now, we're taking a look at our street course. So cool. The thing about FISE, I mean, we're talking about over a mile down the Less River. We have all different skate parks, all different action going on, not only with BMX, we have skateboarding, inline, wakeboarding. We also this year have parkour. But you can follow us online at FISE.official. If you're on Twitter or Instagram at FISE World. You can wind up following us at FISE World Series on Snapchat. And the one thing that you want to do, if you're anywhere in the vicinity, get on down here for tomorrow. We have our finals taking place. It is the crescendo of an amazing weekend. But you also want to make sure that you follow us at our upcoming stops that are around the world. In August 16th through 19th, we are going to be in Hungary, Budapest. September 15th through 17th in Edmonton, Canada. And in November 3rd through 5th, Chengdu, China. So not only is the FISE open to everybody where we have world-class riding, you get to come down, party, and celebrate, but we have open qualifiers, so we get an opportunity to showcase all riders around the world, and it's really great where you get a chance to see the different riding styles. And look at this, coming in, we have a new leader. Brandon Lupos bombing in that top spot with an 85.80. So he's edging out Andriy Kostanin with an 84.20. Ben Wallace holding strong in 3rd place. But you're taking a look at Jake Walwork with a 69.20. And then we have Tom van den Boogaard with a 61.40. So those are your top 12 riders. So far, we've only had 12 ride. We are taking 12 to the finals. Basically, what that means, if you are in the top of the pack, like where Brandon Lupos is, you're sitting pretty, and as you go further along in numbers, you are going to be biting your nails as our riders have yet to go. And the thing to note that the riders who have yet to ride have been our top qualifiers from yesterday and also our top 5 finishers from last year. So traditionally speaking, we're going to start to see riding maybe potentially improve based upon our qualifying results.
Talking about tops, next up we have the top rider from Croatia, Marin Rantis, about to drop in for his run and starting off heat number 4. Very technical rider, has a lot of combination tricks. He's the only rider that we have out here on the circuit from Croatia, and he is a good one to say that. Massive double tail whip over the hip there. Bar spin to tuck, no hander, followed by a tail whip. Oh, beautiful 360 double tail whip over the big box jump.
Rantish coming in, 360 double bar spin. You see the precision, the way he has those hot hands, throws it, catches the bars, throws it again. Rantish coming in with final moments. Flare tail whip smashing right to the pedals there. Definitely not easy to do when you have 55 seconds into your run. Rantish at the buzzer. Double tail whip, just casually throwing that in. And that is time for run 1 of 2 for Rantish, the Croatian.
Just want to stop, sir. Too much fuel in the machine.
Solid first run from Mario Ortiz there. He was very impressive last year during the FISE contest. Absolutely brilliant. His time.
And another very popular face in action sports, man who was trying to do double duty last year with the mountain bike included. Taking a step back to focus on what he loves, that BMX riding, and Drew Bezanson, the Canadian boy, is on top of the drop-in, ready to go here at the FISE 20th anniversary in Montpellier.
Drew Bezanson, one of my favorite riders for good reason, charging with the 270 drop-in. You are blind, looking over your shoulder, grabbing that transition and a tail whip transfer. We've seen two riders go for that, Daniel Wiedemeyer being one of them, and Drew threw it the tail whip in, landing so high at the top. Look at the speed, Ryan. Yes, so clean and smooth on that backflip tail whip. A lot of height on that quarter-to-quarter transfer. Got that wall ride in between the two quarters, wrapping around that berm. That is an opposite wall ride because you see his pegs are on his right side. Drew with a tuck no-hander into the hip, look back, 15 seconds. He's got a lot of momentum, Brian. It's important to see if he can maintain that manual on top of that sub-quarter pipe. Backflip coming in. Drew going for a manual on top of the wall ride.
Oh, not holding it.
Wow. That would have been an enormous finish if he was able to keep his front end up, but I do not want to discredit his entire first run. Drew looking very solid out there.
Check out that 270 drop in. Like you said, you have to go completely blind and drop over your back and back shoulder while going so deep into that transition. So that does it for the first run there of Bezanson. Jean-Jean up next.
Jean-Jean getting ready to drop here. 60 seconds. The crowd is going mental. It just went up about 20 octaves. Montpellier, alley-oop no-hander. Look at the speed. That means he's setting up for something big, Ryan. Yo! Backflip, double tail whip, 1-2 times around. Jean-Jean with the double tail whip. Kicking it the other direction over that hip right there with the front flip. There is no landing, but he does not care at all. Bar spin to tuck no-hander. Look at the height on that tail whip over the hip right there. We've only seen a few riders blast at that height, and that was, generally speaking, in the beginning of the run. Oh,
no,
man.
Going down in a very
Talk about calling a Baba Booey right there. Just slipping his pedal, coming over the box jump backwards. We just saw such difficult riding, and then unfortunately on one of the easier tricks, just riding over the box, slipped a pedal. But look at the backflip, double tail, 1-2 times around, spotted the landing perfectly. And right here, you see he wound up just slipping his pedal, coming on in. Super unfortunate. So he's going to have a chance for some redemption in his second run. But right now, a heavy hitter indeed, a heavyweight of the BMX park scene. He was our 2016 champion. Alex Colborn is getting ready to take the course. One thing to note, if we rewind the clock to 2016, our semifinal scores wound up counting because we had a rain delay in our finals and had to cancel the competition. So Alex was our top qualifier last year and got top honors, but on top of the wall, setting up big and fast, coming in, yeah, Colborn.
Backflip, double tail whip there. And not to take anything away, all the riders in respect for qualification seem to be throwing down as hard as they can. Alex Colborn up there with the bar spin to foot jam. Yesterday in our spine contest, he actually ended up qualifying in 5th position. So we're going to be seeing him later tonight in our finals. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. It's happening at 9:30 in the evening.
Yeah, Colborn throwing the bar spin on that flare. Alley-oop no-hander. Final moments, getting technical right there. Bar spin with that foot jam on that 540 rotation. Quick hand plant on the wall. And the crowd always loving Alex Colborn. I think it's safe to say that Colborn and Mark Webb are definitely two crowd favorites out here. Look how off axis he was on that flip. His body was totally to the side as the bike rotates around 2 times, spots the landing right at the top, coming on in nice and smooth. So that means we wrapped up our 4 riders of heat number 4. We're going back to the top of heat 4. The Croatian Martin Rantish looking to take his second run. The calm before the storm. Martin looking very composed out there as he drops in. Double bar spin. Double tail whip. Showing the way that he spins the front end of the bike and then the back end of the bike. Rantish. Oh, 2 times around with the backflip, similar to Colborn right there over that step-up box jump.
Big extension on that Indian Air, then coming down with another double downside whip on the hip to the right. Bar spin up on top and coming into the spine. 3, oh, going huge and hard. He spun the double tail up there in the 360 incredibly fast as he knew he didn't have quite the right amplitude, but it wasn't enough.
That was a brutal crash right there. Rantish thankfully back to his feet, but you know what? There's so much adrenaline pumping. I hope that Rantish is okay. We see that double tail up coming around. Didn't get the full rotation, his front wheel, and he came down 270 down the landing, just wound up spinning around, and thankfully he's back to his feet. You see him feeling it a little bit, checking his hands, but we know that Rantish is definitely a tough rider. You see his glove is off, holding up his paw. Hopefully, again, it's okay. We never want to speculate. You see there's a little disappointment out there. Hopefully it was enough action in the run 1 and part of run 2 before that crash to help him qualify. But right now, all eyes are on top of the vert wall. Drew Bezanson, the Canadian, originally from Nova Scotia area, currently living outside of Toronto. Drew Bezanson feeds off the energy of the crowd. Just recently built a crazy backyard ramp, which is yet to be released on video. He's going to work on an edit with his friends. He said that it's amazing because when he's out there, he gets to ride for fun in his own zone. And I think he definitely is bringing that energy out here to Montpellier. Listen to the crowd, Ryan. The fuse is lit. And Drew Bezanson, 270 dropping in. Again, that is a 10-foot drop, a 3-meter tail whip transfer. Second time, perfect right there.
The last time he ended a little off axis on the hip, had to really hold it to not crash. Oh, it's going for a bar spin, I believe, there.
Oh, hanging up a little bit, but that shows how fast he's cruising around that course. Again, that is a 10-foot wall ride. Look at the speed around the curved wall. That is opposite direction. Comes in with a lot of momentum. Let's see if he can keep it rolling. There's that Superman seat grab. The leg scissor kicking. Bezanzin up. Manual into the sub, setting up. Yeah, backflip. You see that he actually just transfers a little bit. Gets that kind of floater right there. Looking for that manual, not able to keep that front end up. Still big runs out of Drew. As we mentioned, your qualifying runs can be extremely important. Last year we had rain come in and cancel our finals, and our semifinal scores were the ones that counted. So Drew right there, tail whip, going all the way from that landing into the curved wall. So Drew with the big run. Would have loved to have seen that big manual up there, but hopefully he'll be making it to the finals. And Drew is a rider who always brings it out when it counts. So we've got Anthony Jean-Jean up on deck. Again, he had that unfortunate crash in run number 1. Thankfully, it was on a basic trick over the box where he did not get injured. So he's back with a vengeance for run at number 2. First rider we saw start out with that transfer all the way from that volcano into the box jump lip. Charging back at us. Yeah, killer 3-kit combo. Backflip, bar spin to tail whip. Jean-Jean coming back at us. 360 tail whip, so smooth. That is how you want to land, getting that full transition for speed coming down. There we go, smoothly over that step-up jump backwards. So you know what, this time I'm gonna jump it. Oh. So this time I'm gonna jump that step down backwards to not slip a pedal. Unfortunately going down on that flare tail whip.
Unfortunate luck for John.
Yeah, but the thing we do want to highlight is an overall impression. And even though that he had crashes towards the end of both of his runs, I got to tell you, the impression that he's given this crowd and also Ryan and myself is very impressive riding. We are taking 12 of the 24. So hopefully that was enough of an impression on our judges. Again, our 5 judges: Igor Vukadinovic, Bibi from France, Sinad Grosik, Dave Hank Cleworth, and Van Homan, who are out here calling the shots.
We're going up now for our final 4th rider on his second run, his second and final attempt here in heat number 4. Alex Colborn from Jersey, Great Britain. He's about to get things done. One of the powerhouses here of the FISE Montpellier. A heavy threat in the spine contest. As we said earlier, he qualified 5th last night and will be riding tonight for us in the finals. Make sure you tune in. That's going to be at 21:30 Central Eastern European time. 360 whip to tuck no hander on the big box, coming out strong. Bar spin to tuck no hander. 360 bar coming backwards in that hip. Foot jam on top of the box there and dumping the 3 around.
Yep, 360 bar spin up, 360 bar spin down. Riding the rodeo right there. You saw you almost over-rotated, but enough to set up for that flare tail whip. Colborn coming in hot to trot, 360 double bar spin, hanging up a little bit on that box jump. You definitely see you're a little winded 55 seconds in. Tail whip to tail tap, and that is time for Colborn. Again, Colborn was our top finisher in 2016. As mentioned, we had a rain out where we had to go with our semifinal results. Colborn was sitting on the top of the board. So your semifinal scores can definitely count.
We're taking an overview of the park there. You can see that is definitely not going to happen this year. 30+ degrees for those of you watching in the United States of America. Fahrenheit system, I think that's close to 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, give or take a little bit. And also, we're going to talk about watching back in New York. Shout out to my Mullally BMX family up in the Bronx. I know that Papa Lou and Mr. Ramos are watching with the boys in the garage right now, cheering on all of our riders. Looking forward to riding with you guys this week when I get back to New York City. But right now, we're looking at the highlights. That was Martin Rantesh, 360. I believe that was a double tail. Drew Bezanzin, that 270 drop in, definitely a highlight. No other rider has taken an approach to the course like Drew. And again, that is what the judges want to see, a unique approach.
So that helicopter and then a double tail whip on the bottom hip there. Some nice highlights from the top riders. In heat number 4, we're looking at Martin Rantes. Again, that's where he went down super hard on that 360 double tail whip. I'm hoping he's going to be okay, but if I can make my personal opinion, while he threw off that glove and reading his face like that as he was going back towards the rider lounge, I think he may have broken his hand, maybe dislocated a knuckle or something in his hand, and I'm hoping that it's going to be okay. A lot of these riders are tougher than nails, tougher than anything you could possibly imagine. The Terminator has nothing on them. I very well be eating my words, and he's riding with us in the finals tomorrow if he did enough in his run number 1 to compete. We'll have to wait and see. However, the next heat, heat number 5, is warming up on deck as our judges are tallying up the scores from heat number 4. It's going to be a big one, though, as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Only 8 more riders remaining and the top riders of the BMX park. Let's take a look where heat number 4's ended up. New leader, Alex Colborn from heat number 4. He's stepping up on top with an 86.60. Alex Colborn, first place.
And look at that, Bezanzin jumping in there in 6th with a 78.20. Wow. So what we're going to start to see, though, is the full picture. Anthony Jean-Jean in 12th right now. He is on the bubble with a 67.40. Martin Rantish in there in 9th, but the score to remember is at 67.40. That is the score to beat because 12th and up, you are in the finals, and from 13th to 24th, unfortunately, you will not be moving on to the next round. So that is the score to beat out there. We're looking at all of our riders, and again, the semifinal scores can be extremely important. As mentioned last year, we wound up having rain out here, and we could not have our finals. Now, just taking a moment while our next heat is warming up, I want to talk to you, Ryan, for a moment about the weather and the elements. Last year on the World Series, we went all over the world, and we would see different elements as far as weather conditions out there. How important and what are some of the things that could affect a rider on the course?
Well, like you said, we had a rain out last year. This basically is wiped. It's not happening. But wind is a huge thing. It could be completely blue skies, a bluebird day, but there could be wind in the background, and that is one of the biggest things to a bicycle when you have those rotational wheels and you're going 10 meters up in the air, upside down, doing a helicopter. It is so easy for a gust of wind to come through and blow your bike away. It acts much like a sail.
And something about the wind to note in the outdoor elements, we've seen in competition as it winds up progressing, getting later in the day, the wind actually start to pick up. But we're talking about things picking up. It is our next heat, 5 of 6. These are your top qualifiers from yesterday. This is the Californian Pat Casey. If that name sounds familiar, that was beautiful right there. Dipping out on that 360 tail whip. If the name sounds familiar, he is no stranger to the contest circuit scene. He also has one of the best backyards in BMX with a really unique mini ramp setup and also some trails that were featured on the cover of Ride BMX magazine. But right now, Pat Casey has been pushing his own riding, utilizing a free coaster. That's a hub where he can actually coast backwards on his bike and has some really unique variations out of it. We saw him doing that last night in our spine competition, and maybe he'll bring that to the contest.
Whoa! And going offline with that cash roll, but hitting the volcano feature afterwards right into a hand plant. That showcases the variety in his riding and trick ability that he is just able to get offline like that and link up something new into his run spontaneously.
Now, I think Pat Casey, you saw him do that fakie there at the end. The fact that while the clock was still going, he did that cash roll, it just shows how confident he is on the course right there. He didn't even necessarily get into the quote-unquote tech aspect of his run. But right here, picture perfect, 360 tail whip, his body completely off to the side. I got to say, I'm very impressed with Pat Casey's riding in that run, especially having that big exclamation point at the end.
Up next, one of our favorite riders here at the FISE. Welcome him with open arms and that big smile as well. It never leaves his face when he's on that 20-inch bike. Kevin Peraza dropping in. Oh, beautiful style out of the young rider. 360.
One of my favorite tricks of the entire contest right there, 360 tail whip to flatty. You see him utilizing that curved wall. Something I want to highlight, he came out of the curved wall and cut it hard to the left to set up to hit that hip, making it a lot more difficult. The only couple other riders we saw utilize that curved wall was Drew Bezanzin, but he did not cut it hard coming out like that. It's a lot more difficult, and you got to be careful that your tires do not slide out. Peraza with 19 seconds left. Shout out to Premises Skate Park in Tucson, Arizona. I know that they're always watching the FISE stream on the big screen right there. Nose bonk 360. 7 seconds. Bar spin 450.
A thing that we are always talking about, Daryl, is the style aspect of the freestyle here in BMX, and Peraza definitely comes out and showcases his own very unique style ability, as we will catch in some of the replays. Tricks, just small ones, like when he was transferring up into the dish out of the hip with that knack seat grab, little things like that added tabletop in the 360 whip. He just has that extra oomph.
And if you're wondering why the crowd will go up certain octaves for some riders out there, Montpellier has a great memory of riders of years past, and Kevin has always put his heart on the line with 540s over the box jump, landing fakie over the hitching post of years past. And it's so cool each year that fans come here to see specific riders and cheer them on. I feel a rider who's going to make a lot of fans on this course is our next rider, the Russian Irik Ryzev. He exploded in 2016 at Simple Session with some really crazy box jump variations, putting 5 or even 6 hits in over a certain jump in one air. This course has a lot of big box jumps. We're seeing that downside 360 tail whip with a bar spin first over the hip, bar spin to no-hander up, double tail whip coming down. Irik has spent a lot of time doing demos, riding those crazy big motocross-style kickers to the enormous landings to kind of give himself some of that hang time. And he's bringing that style to the course. Very cool approach to that jump. Wound up hitting that step down. You saw him cut left across the flat bottom to set up for that step box jump hip.
You're coming up into the top section. Oh, going down really uncharacteristically from a foot jam to tuck no hander in. And that's going to do it for Irik Ryzev and his run here in the heat number 5.
You know, and if you're watching this course as well, I just want to highlight that it's a little hard to even put in perspective how enormous these ramps are. The fact that everything on this course is supersized, even that vert wall is 15 feet tall, this is just a tremendous course. But our next rider had a tremendous year in 2016, finishing 5th overall. This is the first time that we're getting an opportunity to see him on the course. He bypassed our qualifier. If you're the top 5 rider from 2016, you get top honors and say, you know what? You're invited to the semi, and we're talking about the tall order rider of Jack Clark. And the thing that really highlighted Jack Clark's riding last year, where he was able to stand out, is the fact that he does whatever he wants on his bike. Jack is a badass. He'll take the course with his own attitude, and he's got the crazy ability to throw the handlebars both directions 3-4 times in one air, but he can also get super tech utilizing his front peg and toothpicks, and also bar spins in and out of, which he did in his best trick at some of the stops, like in Croatia.
Oh, missing the pedals uncharacteristically from Jack there. Love the style out of the young British rider. He has amazing flow throughout the park. Going with the opposite side tabletop usually than what you would normally do over a 270 hip.
Last year at the FISE Series.
Take a couple highlights. Look, there's that Indian air seat grab, blasting super high for that bar spin to tuck no hander. Does have the ability of going massive on the quarter pipe features.
So those were our first 4 riders of heat number 5. We are going back to the top of heat number 5. Pat Casey in staging to take his second run out here. Pat Casey, a father 2 times around. So cool to see a lot of our BMXers really being motivated by being a dad. You can check out on Pat Casey's Instagram some really cool videos of him riding dirt bikes with his boys. Yeah, 360 double bar spin, setting up for that box jump with the downside 360 tail whip. You know, Ryan, something we talk about are the lines that a rider uses out there, similar to a bowl where you have to really link together the lines and set up for a quarter pipe you're going to hit maybe 3 or 4 walls prior. So that's where you see the riders choosing their different starting vantage points. It might be to do a specific trick, maybe halfway or even at the end of their run. It's almost you have to break it down in reverse to see where you want to wind up. Casey doing a quick foot jam wall ride coming back at us, 10 seconds to go. This might be where we see him utilize that free coaster. Flare tail whip, fakie no-hander, there's that coaster. Quick little half cab back. Casey keeping it together there at the end, not an easy thing to do. Again, it's that endurance, the 60 seconds. The UCI head delegate Bart DeJong said that is going to be such a make or break thing for riders out here. Last year it was 45 or 60 seconds that the riders could wind up utilizing. This year it is a clear 60 seconds on the clock.
So then, next rider up in this group, one of those guys that needs little introduction, doing it for fans, doing it for Monster.
So we see the Mongoose rider, Kevin Peraza. Signature smile plastered on his face.
There's Sebastian down there in the crowd saying a smile that could bring upon world peace.
Look at the speed. Oh, beautiful 360 can tire grab, stepping through. Love the way that he just turns the bars as well on that can. Just puts his Vans right over that top tube, grabbing the tire, tail whip over the hip. I think it's also safe to say that Kevin has one of the biggest BMX families, maybe in the history of the sport. He's got 3 other brothers that all ride.
And are good.
Yeah, let's put that in the mix. They all enter competitions. I'm talking to you, Eddie. I know you're going to be up here soon.
Yeah, very, very soon. Come out and shred, man.
Victor and David out here, but right now, Kevin calling it a little bit short, but just taking a moment to bask in the glory of our thousands of fans. And Ryan, when we say thousands of fans, what was the actual count, I believe, of last year? How many people came and joined us at this contest?
I believe it was 500, over 5 days, 595,000, over 595,000
So we're talking
spectators.
600,000 people wound up coming through, and I think on this year we're on par to crush that record.
Yeah, and that's absolutely amazing. If you look at the numbers, then that's about 120,000 spectators a day rolling through here. No other action sports festival, period, in an entire weekend or an entire week is going to touch that number.
No one comes close, and the thing about it as well, people are excited here to see the athletes. like I said, they have a great memory of who did what in the years past. So even if you have Joe Public who's out here and they wind up just catching the event last year, they'll remember a name like Kevin Peraza, Alex Colborn, Mark Webb, and they wind up coming with big signs, big hearts, and really cheering on with a big round of applause. And I feel that that's something that really separates FISE apart from any other event that's out there. And the riders know that. You come here not only for the contest, not only for the World Series, but you come out here to make some of the greatest memories possible, make some really, really great friends, and have the time of your life on the course and also off the course at some of our parties. But right now, the Russian, Eric Ryzev, coming in second run. Oh, looking for a killer combination there. 360 double whip. Looked like he wanted to set up to throw another trick out of that. Transfer up. Bar spin to tuck, no-hander, coming down with the double tail whip.
30 seconds left.
Eric is definitely one of the taller riders of our competition series, but definitely uses his height to his advantage out there. Yo! Great combination, 360 bar spin to downside tail whip.
Moving right into the double tail whip over the box. He had to veer left and then right in an S to get to that one. It's a very difficult feature to hit right after the spine.
And you know, I think that's safe to say you're seeing Daniel Sandoval's impact that I was talking about. One of the first guys to start linking together the 360 bar spins to downside whips and vice versa. The 360 down whip to bar spins about 5 years ago, and it's made it kind of a staple with other riders out there. But we're seeing Eric Ryzev definitely with a great execution. 360 double whip, and there you go. I was talking about putting his feet on the pedals, maybe looking for a bar spin. I never really like to speculate, but when it comes to this Russian who has the crazy combos, 3, 4, 5 hits in one air, it's definitely something that we're looking for. So our fourth and final of heat number 5, the tall order rider from the UK.
Jack
looking
Clark
to spark the course right now. Jack Clark with that 540 tabletop.
Has become a beautiful signature to his riding style, I believe, doing that tabletop in the unorthodox manner. You know, you were speaking about the crowd out here at FISE, and as Jack is on course right now, it kind of reminds me here in Montpellier sometimes of, you know, football hooligans in London. This kind of crowd that you have show up to the spine events and to the BMX contests, they're just out in swarms, and it's not just swarms, it's like hundreds of thousands, it feels like, and they're chanting these huge cheers, and it's not football cheers, it's not European football, it's for the BMX athletes, and I feel like this is such an amazing experience to see.
Yeah, and right there, Jack, you saw him do that quick improvisational foot plant up and then a quick tire tap down, and even though that was more of the kind of basic moves on the course, you just see Jack Clark's bike control where he could kind of throw it in and make it look good, as opposed to maybe not being able to make it up the step up or taking a pedal. And, you know, that's just his bike control, and that's what the judges really want to see in terms of being overall bike rider and having massive control of your bike. But Jack hitting that flat spin 5 flare right there. So that's going to wrap up heat number 5. That means we have one heat yet to go. These are our big dogs, our top finishers of 2016. Talking about Colton Walker, Nick Bruce, Daniel Dares, and Logan Martin are going to be warming up the course. But before we watch their runs, we're going to just take a look at some of these highlights. There was Pat Casey with that tipped out 360. There's the cash roll. Wild style set him up for that nipple right there. Oh.
Raza with that 360 whip to invert as well. That
Let's put that on a highlight
bonk
reel of 2017. Yeah. If anyone out there wants to see an overall highlight reel, I'm going to say that 360 tail whip to tabletop by Kevin Peraza should definitely be on it.
Irek Razov in there with a couple, and now on to Jack Clark with some very stylish combinations. Back to Pat Casey. These are run 2 highlights now as they're going through the wheel. There's that flare whip.
Pat Casey doing that wall ride to tail. Want to take a moment and give a shout out to Scotty Kramer, who I know is watching. Definitely one of the first riders to dial in that wall ride to tail whip. You guys know Scotty, one of the most talented bike riders in the world. Unfortunately, had a crash last year, but fortunately is doing great on his road to recovery, inspiring riders all over the world, myself included. You can check out his YouTube channel and watch all of his action out there. So big love to my man, Scotty Kramer.
You know, I'm just watching the replays on Jack Clark's 360 downside whip there. Did you see that he kind of kicks his feet? And he did it twice, almost in the form of a no-foot can. I don't know if that's like an intentional thing, but when he's coming around, he goes for a little dab down with both feet. And I just saw it twice on both replays from run 1 and 2. And I don't know if he's going for an extra style point there, if that's just a way for him to get around the top of the bike. But yeah, it was just an interesting little nab I saw there.
So if you are just joining us, you came in at the perfect time, and if you've been watching the whole competition, these are the moments we've been waiting for. This is our BMX Park Pro semi-final. We have our 6th and final heat, the top 4 riders. This is the cream of the crop from 2016. We have yet to see these riders come on the course. They bypassed qualifying because they got top honors last year and wound up bypassing straight into the semifinal. Our 4 riders who have yet to take the course: Colton Walker, Nick Bruce, Daniel Dares, and Logan Martin. Those top 4 names were at the top of the podium throughout our last stops, and they're looking to do the same this year in 2017. The big story was Daniel Dares and Logan Martin battling it out head-to-head, basically trading stops and trading positions throughout the whole season and out the whole tour. There were only a few points separating first and second place out there, but you can never count out Nick Bruce, who's been a man on a mission. If you follow his YouTube channel, you see that he's been riding in his backyard. He made this crazy wild resi setup where he's been pushing some of his jumping variations. And if you're going to talk about crazy moves, it's definitely Colton Walker. He had an impressive showing last year at the Nitro Circus, and if you're going to ride in that competition, you know that you have some big jumps. So look at that, Peraza moving into the 3rd spot with an 85.0. So Colborn in top, Brandon Lupo's in 2nd, and it looks like Pat Casey is going to shuffle the deck up and get in that 6th place with an 80.0. But the big story here, Jack Clark in 11th and Eric Rizev in 9th. So that means that Michael Baran is in the bubble and Martin Rantej got pushed out. We are taking top 12 of our 24. So again, if you are in that close, in that top 12 positions, you are going to be biting your nails. And what that means, if we have 4 riders yet to go, if you are sitting in that 9th through 12th place, that means you could potentially be bumped out. So our top 8 riders are going to be determined who are going to be riding tomorrow in our final. And if you are sitting in that bubble spot, you are biting your nails because we have yet to go our top 4 riders. And our first rider of heat number 6 is a madman from the United States, Colton Walker. We're taking a look at our monster and unit rider right now as he puts in his mouthpiece, preparing for battle on our Montpellier one-of-a-kind FISE BMX Pro semi-final course. Taking a moment to acknowledge the crowd, and they are acknowledging Mr. Walker with a huge roaring round of applause as he enters the park. Backflip, bar spin. You see him tucking into the bike to slow down his rotational speed to spot the top of the landing. Downside 360 tail whip to bar spin. Very hard thing to throw on that step up. You see him do that transfer, going the distance. 360 tail up to bar spin. Colton just taking his own time on the course. You see he looks so comfortable out here, Ryan.
Absolutely amazing riding, and that's why you see these are our top 4 athletes of the day. They come out with a vengeance, and they know in a heat like this they have to put down the hammer.
Look how in control he is, and what I'm talking about is especially on the flat bottom of the deck, the confidence level is there. He's not being rushed, and there's not a pressure on him. He's saying, you know what, I'm going to ride in control, and this is something that you see from a veteran rider, a rider who has some experience out here. And Colton, great run. You see him catching his breath after 60 seconds, but that did not show in his run at all. He did not look winded. He looked completely in control. and it looked like he was in charge of the clock as opposed to the other way around, where you might see some riders looking a little rushed or nervous out there. So Colton, 360 tail up to bar spin over that step up, setting up very smooth. There is that flare bar spin. That's a backflip 180 with the bar spin thrown in. But the brawler from Youngstown, Ohio, the big boy, Nick Bruce, doing it for Rockstar, definitely takes his own approach with big moves and big hits. He takes being a professional athlete very serious, not only with his training out there, but also with his obligations to his fans. If you see this man out there, make sure you stop and say what's up, because he loves to meet you. Bruce is getting in the zone, dropping in, coming in big time with that 360 backflip. The brawler Bruce, no-hander floating into our hip. Another confident rider around that curved wall. Downside double 360 tail whip. Bruce known to throw the tail whip one way, tail whip back in that 360. Popping that flare. You saw he transferred a little bit to set up to hit that hip for the one-footed X-up. Bruce is in the zone out here, showing a lot of bike control, demonstrating that dominance with the backflip tail whip into a no-handed backflip. This is a solid run for Bruce with 10 seconds. Let's see if he can keep it together, and he's doing just that with the double tail whip. Bruce throwing up the hand right there. Popping the flare at the buzzer, and the crowd going nuts for Nick Bruce. Another rider rocking that mouth guard in. Again, that is an option that a rider can put in. A lot of times that can help not only keep that award-winning smile together, but sometimes can help if you wind up ringing your bell a little bit so you don't jar your jaw as much. And just shows that the level of commitment these riders have, the dedication to their craft. Well, our next rider came in second place overall, 32 years old, coming from Caracas, Venezuela, via Greenville, North Carolina, where he has his own training facility, the Daniel Dares Action Skate Park. Always a favorite at FISE. Tends to really study the UCI rulebook and know what the judges are looking for, and will dissect a course, throwing tricks down, his signatures on almost every ramp and obstacle out there. But let's see Ryan.
And that is a very thought-out way of doing it, dissecting to see what the judges are looking for. A lot of these riders have so much that they can do. They can't pack it into one course, but knowing what the judges are looking for and then putting it down that way is a lot easier, in my opinion. But don't discredit Daniel Dares. He is the man you said who has won basically every contest there is known to man. And Daniel is setting down a run out here. That signature no-foot cannon tail up into the dish, and the truck driver out on fire like usual.
So Daniel, you see him transfer up, transfer down. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we wind up seeing towards the end of Daniel's run, if he winds up utilizing some of the other volcanoes that some of the other riders have bypassed. He knows that the judges, we see him transferring from that volcano into the landing. The judges like to see, hey, this is built on the course for a reason. Alley-oop 270 tail whip coming in, looking very controlled and confident. Curved wall. And a bar spin in, and that is going to be time for the past X Games gold medalist, Dew Cup champion. Also, Daniel Dares second place in 2016. Daniel does not like to be anywhere but on top of the podium, so we have a feeling that this year he's been doing his homework at his own skate park in North Carolina, and coming here with a focus, trying to knock off this man right here, the Australian, who's sitting in that top spot. We're talking about Logan Martin. When the dust settled after brawling it out at 5 stops around the world with our finals in Chengdu, China, the Aussie was sitting right on top, and right now he's looking to beat that score of an 86.6 as Logan Martin drops in, and the crowd is erupting, backing our Australian.
Here comes Logan around that C curve wall into the box jump there with the 360 downside double tail whip.
Very cool to see him use that curved wall that early in his run.
Big transfer. We saw that Daniel Darris had tried that, Daniel Wedemeyer had tried it the opposite way, and then Drew Bezanson got it, and there Logan Martin does a big trick over that transfer.
Yeah, and that was an alley-oop, so it showed his control. He floated backwards across the gap, bar spin on that flare with 10 seconds to go, looking so confident out here, literally manhandling this course. Tail whip transfer going over the channel, throwing up the double deuce right there. And Logan Martin showing you why he was on top last year and looking to have a repeat performance out here. Now, a couple things, Ryan, I want to highlight about that run. He hit that curved wall ride 20 seconds into his run. The other riders we saw utilize it a little bit further on. But after he came out of that, he actually accelerated and showed his control throughout the entire course. Here's a look at that alley-oop backwards bar spin over the channel, setting up into the no-hander. And here is that tail whip downside across the channel. You saw some riders hit a wall ride across, but he did an air going the distance with that tail whip. So there was our 4 riders of heat number 6. We are going back to the top where Colton Walker is about to drop in and get back in the ring. And let's see how he fires back to Logan Martin's impressive first run.
We were talking about that transfer, that alley-oop 360 bar spin transfer. That's very reminiscent of some runs that we've seen in the past at the FISE World Series in 2016 from Logan Martin. He had done it previously in Edmonton, I remember, as well in Chengdu. He's looking for some transfers, even some some back transfers, as if he'd be hitting an over-vert wall and going backwards, especially sometimes into the box feature. So it's really cool to see him utilize that kind of unique signature trick into this style of a course.
All right, the United States rider of Colton Walker now dropping. Look at the speed coming in hot to trot, backflip, bar spin, tail whip, perfect execution. You see that transfer in with the bar spin, 360 tail whip up, 360 coming down. I loved his spin right there. You just saw how he led with his upper body, his bike floating behind him, made a basic trick look great. Again, look at his attention, the attention to detail on the flat bottom for Colton. He's just showing a confidence out here. There's something about that. Jeremiah Smith was another rider who always just rode at his own pace and said, you know what? I'm not going to be rushed by the clock. I'm confident out here, and I'm going to make my runs, the walls count when I wind up getting to them. So he's got 10 seconds to go, and again, that confidence level is showing. Quick double tire ride. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that is time right there for Colton Walker's run 2 of 2.
Colton Walker.
Let's take some replays there.
1, 2, 3, backflip bar spin to tail whip. Very smooth execution. And rider 2 of heat number 6, this is Nick Bruce, again, Youngstown, Ohio, doing it for Cali Protectives and Rockstar out there.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, Nick Bruce has turned into a tremendous rider. I first had an opportunity to see him at the Dew Tour way back when. There was an amateur aspect of that competition where we wound up seeing it come up through the ranks. And I remember the first time I had a chance to see Nick Bruce ride, I was like, that is one gentleman who is going to make quite a name for himself in BMX. And he's doing so right now with that 360 downside tail whip, the tail whip back, that windshield wiper in the 360. Bruce out here taking a similar approach, that curved wall ride right away. Bam!
Wow. There's that 360 windshield wiper to the downspin, downside tail whip to regular tail whip back.
Bruce showing his domination out there. Again, popping height on that flare tail whip, setting up perfect for that opposite air X up. Bruce into our spine, back backflip X up.
Massive amplitude, great line up into that double tail whip over the box jump, carrying tons of momentum, only 10 seconds left, and I feel like the action hasn't let down yet.
This is a very confident Nick Bruce. Ice pick stall on that back peg, coming into our spine, backflip, little off-axis style at the buzzer, and the crowd is just roaring out here.
And I mean, that's what you call an action-packed run right until the end of the timeline.
So Bruce wrapping around that head tube, kicking the frame around, almost like a decade style. And there's a 360 tail whip into that downside. So you're seeing him go both ways on that trick. Different variations right there of a similar combination, but linking them together very differently. So we're going to see what the judges think. They've got a very difficult task ahead of themselves to wind up making sense of this last heat and seeing where our top 4 riders from 2016 are going to fit in our semi-final. But we have 2 riders yet to go. Daniel Dares, who is our 2014 overall FISE champion. No stranger to the top of the podium at any event in the world. Daniel is a fierce competitor, and what I mean by that is he does not like to be sitting anywhere but in that top spot. He tends to study the rule books. He tends to really focus on what the judges want to know, and that is his approach to the course. He's got a lot of tricks that he can really just put down on lock that he practices at his home skate park, and he likes to bring them to different features on the course, like that 360 tail whip where he winds up holding off and then just spinning it around with his upper body. But there was a off-axis, no-handed 720. Daniel was the first rider to really start experimenting with those off-axis 7s. I remember when he first came on the scene, everyone was confused. Is that a 360 flip? What is that? And if Daniel's going to invent the trick, that is how we're going to wind up calling it. 360 up, 360 down.
20 seconds. Yes.
20 seconds for Daniel Dares. The question is, can he keep the momentum rolling, Ryan?
I hope he can, but Daniel Dares, like you said, he's been in so many contests. It's still amazing to me how athletes like that can stay on top of the action sports game with such a level of youth popping up year after year. It's amazing to me that that is just the top notch of athletic performance. But talking about athletic performance, we'll have to wait and see exactly how it's going to play out for Logan Martin, who's going to be getting his second and final run up. Let's take a couple highlight looks at what Daniel Dares did here. There was that signature no-foot cantu double tail up this time into the dish, 360 bar spin out, and some amazing riding the whole run through. I am sure that run is going to be scored upon the top 5. I'm betting in our judges' tower, but we are going to have to wait and see how can Logan Martin respond to that. His 1 minute, his final minute up here is going to start right now.
The crowd is roaring for Logan Martin, the Australian, your 2016 overall FISE World Series champion. Triple bar spin that was 1, 2, 3 times around. Curved wall, 43 seconds. Bar spin, no-handed backflip. Look at the confidence level, just charging. Throwing the pedals in, but to come up fast for that alley no-handed transfer.
Did it last time with the alley-oop bar spin.
So difficult because that landing is enormous. It's our tallest feature in the park, and Logan going with that alley-oop.
Was that a triple tail whip? I actually couldn't even catch it. Can't believe these riders can catch those amazing spinning frames with their feet. It is mind-boggling.
So here are the moments that count. 7 seconds on the clock. Logan looking dominant out there as 3, 2, 1, wall ride, tail whip. And Montpellier is just ecstatic at Logan's second run out here. What a great performance from our 2016 champion.
Wow, what riding there from our 6th and final heat. All riders included Colton Walker, Nick Bruce, Daniel Dares, and Logan Martin just taking it up a notch. You see there, the crowd is still in swarms out to watch the festivities in Montpellier. Stay tuned. We're going to have a schedule up for you of the highlighted events that are still going to happen out here for day number 4.
We're taking a look, though, our last heat, 6th and final. The entire runs from our 4 athletes were basically a highlight reel, but we're going to look at some of the cream of the crop. There was that 360 tail up to bar spin by Colton Walker. Big off-axis 720, Nick Bruce, 360 double downside tail whip.
Going to Daniel Dares, there's that 360 double whip over the spine and that corked out 720 or 360 flip. Flare tabletop and going to Logan Martin here, double topside whip over that and that huge alley-oop bar spin in his first run. Some amazing riding. There you go, that 360 whip to downside whip. As well, he was showing that he can go both ways. Daniel Dares with that corked out 7 or that 360 backflip tuck no-hander now. We were showing some of the second run highlights. Logan Martin.
Well, those were some of your crazy highlights out there. It's so insane to think that the 24 gladiators took to the course out there. I mean, those were the cream of the crop. We're going to have to see what the judges think of it, though, and that's the 5 judges and riders that are really going to try to make sense of all the action out there.
It's going to be amazing to see how they link up against. This is where we really get to see how did those top 4 end up against the rest of the 24. Let's check it out right here.
And look at that, Logan Martin exploding onto the top of the leaderboard at the 92.60, and Daniel Dares, another rider in the 90s with a 90.80, and Nick Bruce with an 89.80. But then we see Colton Walker down there in 7th with an 84.60. So look at that, our 4 riders from heat number 6 moving up to the top. But the real story is that Drew Bezanson just squeaks in there with a 78.20. Daniel Sandoval, Pat Casey, and Ben Wallace will also be moving on as we're taking 12 riders into our final. Tough break for Eric Rizev, who is just on that bubble in that 13th spot.
As well, Marin Rantes right there. Hopefully that he is doing okay with his hand. We know that we saw there was a bit of an injury. Maybe it plays in his favor that he isn't going to be competing, but that's always a shame that you miss the cut. Bryce Tyrone, the young gun who came out here and tried his best. Amazing riding from all 24 of the BMX athletes here for the UCI BMX Freestyle Park semifinals.
What a semifinal.
It's been absolutely amazing showcasing this. It's just been another phenomenal, basically, contest. You could say some of these are always final runs, but I'm just so impressed and ready to see what's going to happen for tomorrow's final.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting heated up. Tonight, we're going to have our spine final, and then we also have our competition final for our BMX Pro Park. As we mentioned, the pro contest in the park is always a highlight here in Montpellier. Every year, people really look forward to it. But we just witnessed some of the craziness out here in our semifinal. Let's look under the hood of Logan Martin's run to see what it took to come out on top.
So as you see, it's a FISE World Series 2016 champion, and he's staying on top, starting it off here in Montpellier. Coming out of the semifinals, he was the last person to ride, and he is still on top of the board when we enter tomorrow's final. Logan Martin on fire again here in France.
And some things to really highlight and note is the confidence level. Also, halfway through your run, to come with the speed on that alley-oop tuck no-hander. As mentioned, only a couple riders went for that transfer all day, one of them being Drew Bezanson, the other Daniel Wiedemeyer, but neither of them were able to alley-oop where you travel backwards. That's a lot more difficult in terms of keeping your speed and momentum across the gap. And keeping that stamina throughout the entire 60 seconds really looks like that swings favorably with our judges. And we're watching Logan here just continue that momentum from beginning of the run to the end of the run with that wall ride to tail whip.
It's a beautiful run and nice to be able to take another look at Logan Martin. It's always an inspiration watching a rider like that come down course. So it's been so much fun coming out here, but remember, there is always extra action happening out here at the FISE Montpellier. There is something going on every single minute of the day from sun up to sun down. So let's take a look and see what other action you can check out here on day number 4 of Montpellier FISE. We started off with the BMX Flatland. We just finished the BMX Park semifinals. And remember, later at 6 o'clock, we are going to be having, at 6:50, I believe, we are going to be having the roller slope style finals. That's going to be happening over on the left side of the village. And then over the BMX Freestyle Spine finals later tonight. That is one of the biggest events that we have here in FISE. It's so amazing. Make sure you check it out. And if you cannot tune in to FISE.tv and check it out online with us.
Yeah, you do not want to miss the Spine final. The action is just heating up. That semi is just a preview of the finals for BMX that have yet to come. Not to mention all the different action sports. This really, truly is one of the best lifestyle for action sports. We've got a lot of action still coming your way.
And just going to highlight a couple of the athletes that we're going to watch for the Spine final. Logan Martin came out first yesterday. Colton Walker, Ben Wallace, Brandon Lupos, and Alex Colborn linking off the top 5. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, and Daryl Now, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you later tonight.
Pizza di Lizza, a dream of a great Italian pizza. Well, for friends too. Pizza di Lizza, with a thicker base, extremely crispy outside